Hello, everyone. Welcome to Eastside Voices. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm going to take this out of here if that's okay. There we go. Okay, so I'm Lauren Archer. I'm the Executive Director of Eastside Women in Business, and standing up here with me, of course, is the legendary, one of the best women in business here in the East Side.
My name is Sarah Belfry. Welcome.
Big round of applause for Sarah and all the wonderful folks here at SoulFood. Thanks for hosting. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Eastside Women in Business. Before I do, I'm going to invite Sarah to tell you a little bit about SoulFood and their kind of vision and mission here and the magic of the space you're sitting in.
Well, thank you very much. It is absolutely a pleasure to look out into our floor and see so many women who have conquered all of the things that, as a woman who's in business, that kind of we can butt up against. And so thank you so much for bringing your courage, your vision, and your hard work to our place. We started this store with a vision of being able to support community, particularly with local authors, local musicians, and local artists, because we really believe that that is the heartbeat of our neighborhood. And so we were so excited when Lauren and Christy approached us, because it's really authors who are getting out this information that allow us to take those next steps is really the place that we really want to go and help facilitate. And so I can't thank you enough for being here. It's really wonderful to see you. And I think that I'm going to geek out and just really appreciate that you guys are here. And please let us know if you need anything. And thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for your hospitality. I'd love to see a show of hands of who is a member already of Eastside Women in Business. Okay, so look around, ladies. There's our membership. Thank you. We are an all-volunteer organization. We've been around for about 3.5 years now. Is it that long? Gosh, we're coming up on 4 years this summer. Go figure. Talk about community. And all right, so who's here as a guest? Awesome. Big round of applause. Thank you for joining us. And then some of you probably are here just because you're SoulFood supporters, so we're glad you decided to be part of our event tonight. So Eastside Women in Business has the philosophy, we're of course a professional networking organization, but you know, there's a lot of networking organizations out there, and some of them have some pretty strict rules on what kind of people can get involved and what you have to do and how you have to refer certain leads, and it has to be only one person from each group. And when we were talking about forming our organization, we thought, well, what kind of a group would we want to be part of? You know, we'd want to be part of something that's more inclusive, where we can develop relationships. Maybe if there's a handful of people from a particular field, we can leverage that and work together. Because women, we network differently than men do, generally speaking. Nothing against men. I love men. But we tend to work together in groups, you know. We're the tribe. And what we found with our organization, now that it's been almost 4 years, is somebody in this room very likely has somebody else's back. You know, we have a referral system. If there's something you need, we can ask somebody in our organization, and they'll know somebody in the community that either does it or can support them. And that's powerful. You know, that's a really great place to be. So we encourage you guys to get involved. We meet the first Wednesday of every month. We have a monthly luncheon. It's kind of a nice, very professional sit-down lunch with a how-to presentation. You put on your nice dress clothes and you come, and it's a great way to just get out and connect with other women and get to know who's doing what in your community. And then we let our hair down a little bit on the third Tuesday of the month. We do an after-hours social, and that's a little bit more informal, where we, you know, get to find out what's really going on behind the scenes and who's got, you know, what's happening, and lots of business happens at these meetings as well. So come get involved. Our website is ewib.biz. Most of you who are in the house tonight have a little agenda here. So that tells us a little bit about what's going on, and then there's our contact information at the bottom. So many of our members have already taken the step to become authors, and that's one of the things we really like to also do, is learn from one another. And there is so much wisdom in this community, so we are really thrilled to tap into the wisdom of 6 female authors, although being women, one of them, we found out, has a toddler, the one who wrote the book on toddlers, who had a little head injury. Apparently the toddler's okay. Yeah, but isn't going to be able to join us tonight. So we're going to go with the flow there. And so we're going to have each author come up and talk for about 10 minutes about whatever she wants to talk about. And then we'll group a little bit later. We have a publisher in the house who's going to share a little bit about the journey of publishing and what you can expect and what you need to know about that. And then we're going to come back and have question and answer. But before we do, we thought it would be great to have each one of you participate in a fun little writing exercise. So I'd like to invite one of eWib's authors who is not on the panel. She's our membership director, Julia Moore, to come up and take us through a fun little, just a quick 5-minute writing exercise. So let's give a round of applause for Julia Moore, please. You want to tell us a little bit about your book before you get started?
Sure. I've been writing a book for 2 years now. I'm hoping to have it finished by the end of the year, so wish me luck on that. My book is about raising my daughter, Christy. And Christy is 31 years old. She lives with us. She was born blind, and she's developmentally disabled. So she's 31, but she's really like 8 to 10. So, you know, we always say if you have to be stuck at an age, that is a great age to be stuck at. Because she's always happy, you know. She's not into the 12 and 13, which is an awful age, that I went through with my other daughter. So it's just a book about, you know, what our journey and my journey raising her and what I learned along the way and just sort of little life lessons. So that's what my book is about. So let's see, writing exercise. So we thought it would be fun today to do a 5-minute writing exercise, and we're going to do just a free write, and you can write about anything you want to write about. And what's going to be fun about it is that nobody is ever going to see it. So you can be free to write anything you want, whether you want to write a scathing letter to, you know, your uncle or your mother, or you want to write a little snippy letter to your sister, or, you know, you just want to say what a beautiful day it is in the Northwest and why you love the Northwest. I mean, it's just whatever you want to write about. So you can be, you know, snippy, snappy, snazzy, whatever you think, and knowing that nobody will ever read it. Then what we're going to do afterwards is you can choose to keep it for yourself, or we have a shredder up on stage. And everybody gets to come up after they're done and shred it so that you can be assured that, you know, no eyes will ever see it if you do not wish them to see it. So does anybody have a timer? Who wants to time this?
I can time it.
You want to time it? Okay. So does everybody have the piece of paper? You got a swirly piece of paper or a stripy piece of paper? That's what we're going to do our writing exercise on. So, ready, set, go.
we've got about 1 minute left. Thirty seconds. There's our 5 minutes, ladies. Okay. How was that? Was that fun? Okay, so do we have an artist in the house that wants to volunteer to take the shreds and turn it into something that we can remember as part of the magical seeds that have been planted? We'll all know that it's an invisible code of words and voices and ideas, but nobody's particular voice will be out there. So feel free to come on up and shred either now or maybe at the break. We'll take a break a little bit later. I'm not sure that I was able to get the shredder exactly working properly, so we'll have to figure that out. And we don't want a lot of shredding noise. But anyway, so we all have a voice, right? We all have something in our hearts that wants to come out and be expressed. And this is a great opportunity to think in your own mind about your voice and what qualities, what aspects, what visions you would like to impart upon your community. And, you know, human beings, we learn by other people. We have this little thing in our consciousness called mirror neurons. So when we watch someone else do something that we want to do, that almost teaches us, right? It imprints us, hey, maybe I hadn't thought about doing it that way. So that's one of the gifts we have tonight, is to learn from several different women what their process was, what their book's about, what they learned from it, and what, you know, the end result, what it gave them, how it made them a better person. So with that, I would like to welcome our very first author, whose book is being used by Eastside Women in Business right now as our monthly book club book. It's our very own Tama Borriello with her book, And the Money Will Follow. So let's give a warm welcome to Tama.
I want to stand right here. Anyone has a camera? I'd like to photo document. I'm Tama Borriello. I'm a certified financial planner and an investment advisor, and work with a wealth management group in Bellevue, Washington. Before that, I opened, sold 4 different businesses. So I've been on the small business side, where you're out there marketing yourself, you're your own PR team. I've been on the money side, where you've got to figure out how you're also going to plan for retirement. And I've, through the years, run into a lot of seemingly insurmountable financial situations, and learned a lot of techniques to help people get through that and solve it. And so when I started offering a class based on my approach to helping people get things in order financially and reach financial success, and also get their own personal lives on track, I ended up with several years of a step-by-step book to help people just like myself, or people that had never been able to conquer themselves or their, you know, financial lives. And so I had a really great tool to start with. And so if you've got that part, that's a nice way to go. The intimidating thing is thinking about a publisher and your book cover and how to get all that part done. And if you've got a good team in that area, you can concentrate on what I call the really hard part. So for a good team, I had Patty and Lonnie Pacelli, the owners of Leading Edge Publishing, and Patty happens to be here tonight. And they take care of everything on the editing and the kind of personal sort of you can do it side, and they take care of all the technical part. And so if you've got that, then you get to the other side of publishing a book, which is how in the heck do you write a book? You look at these 700-page books, or you read an interview with an author and they say, I started at 8 in the morning and I ate lunch and then I finished at 5. And I'm like, my attention span is like an hour tops. How do you do that? So I thought about what helped me get from point A to point B, and I came down to 3 things: passion, discipline, and authenticity. And when I say passion, I don't just mean it as that simple, easy word. I mean it as when you're looking on the internet and you find out that there's 650 authors that are all experts and have written about the exact same subject that you're going to write about. It's really hard to stay passionate about writing every day or thinking about how you're going to share that. And I lost my passion for a while, and I remember I had a young woman that had taken one of my classes through a 401k I managed several years ago. And she called me up one day and she said, I wanted to let you know that you changed my life. When I met you, I was debt-ridden. I had no hope of ever really getting out of debt or even owning a home. And I went through your plan, and in the last few years, I've had some really big changes, and I've gotten married and got my debt paid off and got a home. And I never would have done it had I not had that kind of guidance to help me. And I remember thinking, this class is worth something if it can change one person's life. And I thought, if I can write a book that will make a change in one person's life, that's what I'm passionate about. And so when I started translating it into a real book, something that could be read and thumbed through, whenever I would kind of get down, or I'd hear about somebody else having already published a book, or somebody telling me it was, kind of a mediocre idea, I'd think, I don't care. All I need is for 1 or 2 people to really care about it. And the other part of passion is being so passionate, you kind of let all the external go and you focus on what's really important to you. And the authors of Chicken Soup for the Soul, they went through hundreds of publishers, got turned down before, and they finally got somebody that would publish that. There's another book called Thank You, 365 Days a Year. And this is a man that was down on his personal luck, and he wrote thank you notes every day for 1 year, and it ended up getting published and selling over 5 million copies. And so that's where, you think about, where's my passion? Well, what do I care most importantly about? What little change can I make in the world that will make me realize that this time and energy I put into it was worth it? And speaking of that man that did the 365 thank you notes throughout a year, isn't that a great idea? A thank you note every day. Well, that goes to the next element, which is discipline. So how in the heck do you write the book? And I did something, I remember reading about the man that was writing that book, and I thought, well, I'm just gonna write 1 page a day. And so I'd get home, it was double spaced. I'd get home and I'd have my theme, and I would write down my ideas that went around it, and then I'd get to the bottom of the page, and a lot of times I was like, oh, I'm done. And I just put it away because it's hard to be passionate about it. It takes like months or years to write a book. As we were Julia talking about, she's kind of in that process. So if you have a discipline where you can set aside a half an hour a day or 45 minutes a day and just record your thoughts or notes, and don't worry about it being coherent, don't worry about the spelling, the editing, just put it out there and do that for a year, all of a sudden you've got a 365-page book, or more or less, depending on what your schedule is. And the last thing that I found, which I learned as kind of a hard lesson, is authenticity. And at first I thought, I'm in the financial world, I've got to be really particular and just tell people what to do. And like on month 3, I read what I had written, and I thought I was going to throw up. I was like, oh, I wouldn't want to read this, how depressing. And I just kind of started over and thought, why don't I write about how I learned each of these lessons? And that was easy for me to do. because I remembered things that had happened to me personally that had taught me sometimes very difficult lessons and sometimes very meaningful lessons over the years. And I just started sharing them in my book. And what I have heard back from many people that have read it or have followed the weekly or monthly instructions, they feel like they can do it too. And that's what's really important if you want to write a book that has impact for people, is it for it to be accessible to them. So if they can relate to your authentic experience, I think that's incredibly powerful. So those are the 3 keys that I learned. And again, I'll go back to none of this would have happened had Patty and Lonnie not taken a personal interest and inspired me to share what was a really important and valuable message, and then managed all the side note stuff of, you have to get a book cover designed. It's like, well, can't we just photocopy something? No, you have to get a really cool cover so that it looks good. And, they took care of all that and making it all look right when it prints out. I didn't know this, but that's really hard to do. And taking care of getting it published on Amazon and Kindle, all that technical stuff, that will just be a roadblock to most people, especially me, because, I've got family and a job and life to live. And so having a team that's behind you in that way is incredibly valuable, and it lets you focus on your core competency, which is why you're writing the book in the first place. You're writing about something you're really good at. So that's all I have to say.
Awesome, and she was so punctual, 3 minutes under schedule. So one of the things that I took from that is the notion of voice, right? And we're calling this Eastside Voices, and that little inner voice that might say, "Why am I doing this?" That Tama mentioned. There's all these other books, and yet she found that her voice made a difference in one person's life, and now I don't know how many more. Do you know how many? Lots and lots. Yeah, so that's awesome. And that support from the community, that's why we're here for one another. So awesome. Thank you, Tama. So our next author is Patty Picelli, and the title of her book is 100 6-Word Lessons to Look Your Best from Head to Toe. And so without further ado, Patty is also one of our EWIB members, so let's give her a warm round of applause and a welcome.
Thank you. Nice. This is a great turnout. Thanks for coming, everyone. It's great to see some people I haven't seen for a while that I wasn't expecting to see. I wanted to show you Tama's book. So she was talking about it. You didn't, and the cover that we actually got a professional graphic designer to do this, and my husband Lonnie kind of worked with her on getting that done. So that's what that looks like, and it's self-published through our Create Space and Amazon, but we'll talk about that later. Write a few notes here. I didn't prepare that well, but I'm just going to tell you how my experience was. I have a journalism degree, and I really wasn't able to ever get a job full-time in that field. It was just a difficult field to get into, and I just didn't give it enough priority, and worked as a secretary and then became a stay-at-home mom and taught piano lessons. This wind is really bugging me. Yeah, it's just constantly. So this whole author thing was always, it's funny because I went to, got a journalism degree, but I really liked editing more than writing. It's much easier to correct someone else's writing than to just write something. Although I didn't know how to write, I didn't love it. I was never dying to write the great novel or anything. So several years into our marriage, my husband retired from Microsoft, and he wrote a book. And he always hated to read. He never really was that into that kind of thing. He's a project manager and did procurement and some other things at Microsoft, and not a literary type at all. But he wrote a business book on project management, and it got published by Prentice Hall. Like, I have a journalism degree, you get a book published, and you don't even read. And when someone said to me, a couple people would say to me things like, "Oh, how does it feel to be the wife of an author?" I'm like, "Oh, well, didn't really like that comment. You know, I was proud of him and happy for him, but I didn't like that people would think that I was just the wife of an author." And a few years later, I started this other business of a real passion that I did have. I always did a lot of newsletters, and I did some book editing on the side, like Tama's book, but that was later. So I started my wardrobe consulting business 4 years ago, and that was my real passion that I had just kind of built through several years. I took some training for that, and about the time my daughter was going to college, so it was a good time to do something new. So around that time, Lonnie, my husband, had written a few more books, and he had written a book called 6-Word Lessons for project management. And he came up with this idea with a friend. They kind of were talking about how Ernest Hemingway wrote a story, and it's called the story is For Sale. Let's see if I can remember it. For Sale, Baby Shoes Never Worn. And that's the whole story. Someone challenged Hemingway supposedly to write a story in only 6 words. So that just got my husband started thinking about an idea for a book. The 6 words lessons, 6-word title of something, 6 words. So that's why this is called 6-Word Lessons. So he wrote the book, and then he said, "You should write a book about wardrobe and clothing." And so I thought that would be a really great idea to help promote my business. And this is a type of book that it's not a novel, it's not great writing. Most people can write these books. My 18-year-old son just wrote one. So we have about 8 or 9 authors now in this series, and we're actually going to talk about this later, but I'll just talk about how I wrote it. How much time left?
Oh, plenty.
Oh, okay. So this is what they look like. They all have the same cover, but different colors, and you can put your logo on it. So I had another friend who wanted to write one of these, Debbie Rosemont, who does professional organizing and productivity. And so she met with Lonnie, and we were kind of just starting to get the series going outside of just the two of us. And so she said she wanted to have it done by, this was in July. It was right before 4th of July, we met with her. And she said, "Well, I want to have mine finished by this certain date." I think it was like 2 months to have it available for an event she was going to do. And so I didn't want her to beat me to it. So that really helped me to be motivated to get to writing and get it done by a certain date. I think I did it in about a month or 2 months over the summer, so it was a little less busy in general with kids' school and stuff. So I was able to, I'd like sit out on the patio, and I like to handwrite. I like to type too, and but I kind of enjoy. I can kind of think differently when I handwrite things, so on a big pad of paper. So that's how I started it. And this is pretty easy because it's 100. You know, you have to do 100 pages, and each page is very short, large font. It's about 40 words per page. It's just that's the format we've chosen to do because we wanted it to be a simple read, kind of like texting and Twitter, and just a quick thing people can sit down and read this in one sitting, and or just page through it and learn a few tips. So it's tips on how to look your best. So I also had to come up with the difference with writing these books is you have to do that. Your titles have to be 6 words exactly, 100 of those. Then your description, you have some leeway with how long that is. So I had things like keep updated on changing makeup trends. That's 6 words. And then the description is, more about how you should keep updated on makeup trends. And then I had keeping warm during the summer months. So I had to add the in there to get it 6 words. And this actually was easier than I thought it would be to come up with 6-word titles for every little tip. And then the descriptions were probably harder than the titles. And then the chapter headings, the name are also 6 words. So there's 10, you don't have to have 10 chapters, but about 10 chapters with 10 lessons per chapter. There's your 100 lessons. So they're 6 words. So I just sat down and wrote it by hand, and then I started typing it, and I just did it on a regular Word document. Now we have another system Lonnie has come up with where it's a Word document table, so it's really a template. So you fill in the table with your 6 words if you're doing a 6-word lessons. He's also worked with other people who wrote other types of books besides the 6-word lessons. So it's been a good tool for me because with my business, I just do a service. I don't sell anything. I don't sell clothes. I just consult with women in their homes on their what they're wearing and go shopping with them. So it's really nice to have at least this, to have a product to sell when I go, to give away, or to have, if I speak at a group, to have a table with these to sell, just to show, and it just gives me, I feel like it gives me credibility above maybe some of the other stylists that are out there that I wrote a book, and it was so easy. It was really easy. It's easy to write it. It's work. It takes time and it takes effort and discipline, definitely, like Tama said, but it's really not hard, and I don't think you have to have a journalism degree for sure to write this type of book, or probably whatever book you want to write. And so good luck. I think that's it.
Thank you, Patty. Wow, the idea that less can really be more. I think some of the takeaways there are to find a format, right? A format that works for you and stick with it. And even, limits, the power of limits, creating certain parameters around what you're going to write and sticking to that. That's great. And then I love the hope that it doesn't have to be hard. It can be easy. That's great. So I'd like to use this time to invite everybody to take a short break because we've got a few more presenters, and Leda, the gal who was supposed to be speaking next, is taking care of her toddler. Does anybody know, is her book here? Is it? Okay. Okay. Awesome. How many? And Leda totally rocks. Okay, so for those of you out there, Sarah just said it's like the best book on parenting. How many parents in the room? Lots. Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so take a look at her book, and then let's regroup in about 5 minutes. Leslie, I'm so glad you came tonight. Yeah, so this is just such an awesome event, isn't it? Yeah. Love it. And the microphone is still on. Yeah. Well, actually, I'm a hypnotherapist. Yeah, so I work with weight loss. I work with habits and motivation and that kind of stuff. In addition to the volunteer work I do here with EWID. Oh, I got some great pictures. Oh, good. Thanks. How about you? You're a photographer. You wanted to get that genuine. Are we ready to regroup? It's so fun when you get a community together, right? We're already starting to cross-pollinate, share some of those great ideas. I bet half of you have your next book all outlined out and ready to go. Okay, so let's stay on track. We have got 3 more authors to share with us tonight. Our next author is Erica Klemecki, and her book has a very mysterious title, so she's going to tell us about it. It's called, let's see if I can pronounce this properly, The Song of Chamalungma. So big round of applause for Erica, please. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, there's good. I'll try to stay near it. Hi, everybody. My name's Erica Klemecki. I'm an editor by chance, I think is the best way to put that. I'm the editor of an online magazine called Seattle Backpackers Magazine. So my trade now is actually backpacking. I spend days at a time away from civilization, away from business clothes, and yeah, this is about as dressy as I get. So I really love being in that place, and so my story has to do with that. But first, I'm a photographer by trade. I'm not a writer. As a matter of fact, I still am not sure I'm ready to own author, and she's nodding at me going, yes you are. But it's one of those things. For about 3 years after I started back to work after children, people would ask me, well, what do you do? Because it's a great ice-breaking question, right? And I would always say, oh, well, I'm a mom. And I was a mom, but that's not the answer they were looking for. They wanted to know what I do. And so I do have trouble with defining myself by my accomplishments, I guess you could say. Anyway, with all that said, I have been editing this magazine for about 2 years, and it was shortly after I started that I ran into a Nepali guy who lives here in Redmond, and he said, I'm going on a fundraising expedition up the Mount Everest Highway. It's a famous piece of trekking, and I'm like, backpacker, yes, I can do that. And I said, I never have conceived of anything like this big in my life. I couldn't consider it. It was something outside of the realm of anything I'd considered before. And it took him about 10 minutes of convincing, and I said, okay, as long as you let me be the photojournalist on the expedition on this trek. And I don't know if I said this already, but the purpose of the trek was to raise awareness and funds for the people of the area. It was a humanitarian and environmental effort for his nonprofit organization. Just so happens that 2 of the guys I went with were musicians from here, Clint and John. And that's how I know SoulFood is kind of through the back door, is the Sherpa who took us up, actually organized a bunch of musical concerts, because then you have a big crowd of people that's in a good mood and would like to hear your message. And so he had this all figured out. He'd planned for a year, and he grabbed me literally 6 weeks before the trip started and said, book your tickets, you're going, the day that I sat down with him for an interview. And I was interviewing him for my magazine just because he was a local, interesting person. So just from the story I've told you so far, you can kind of see how this wasn't my purpose at all. I hate to say that it kind of happened to me because I'm a person on a mission in general in my personality, but this totally just happened to me. It was totally chance. And so I left the kids, 5 and 9 at the time, at home with Dad for a solid month, and I lived with Nepalis and Clint and John, and I just had this amazing experience. So I had to chronicle it. And I started chronicling it when I got there, and I'm just going to feed back to Tama, is that the first person that spoke? Yes. That passion is absolutely at the root of everything that I do, and whew, I always get misty. But in book writing especially, I got to a point where I was experiencing things that was too much for me to process all at once. I'm a post-processor, so I take everything in as it happens to me, and then I need designated time to process everything that happened to me that day or that week or that month. And so I journal, and I journal a ton, and I've been journaling since about 2006 or 2007, and I blog. And so I was in a routine of writing words every day or every week or whatever my period of time was, but getting my thoughts down on paper So when I was there, it was only about day 2 before I realized if I don't write down what's happening to me right now, it's going to be gone. And so I actually wrote 3 solid notebooks worth of really detailed memories or quick snippets of what someone said or what color the room was, and I brought all of it back with me, and then I spent literally 9 months purging a month worth of my life onto paper. And it was exhausting, but at the same time, it was so invigorating to be driven by something that was such a passion and to get it all down. And after 2 months of getting it down, I stopped, and I think that's when I finished my reacclimatization back to the United States culture. I took a deep breath and I went, who am I writing this for? Because up to that point, I really had just been purging it mostly for myself, and a lot of things were half explained, and I showed a couple pieces to a couple people, and they didn't get it. They didn't understand what I was trying to say. So after 2 months of writing, I stopped, I backed completely up, and I rewrote the whole entire thing from another voice, where I talked about how it affected me from where I was coming from, and in ways that I thought other people would be able to relate to, rather than just a journaling experience of, ooh, today we went to, and it was so neat to see I gave it words that I thought everybody else would be able to attach to, rather than unattached from. And after bending several people's ears and going, who am I writing this for? Help me out. I don't know where to go with this. It really took, an army of my friends listening to me whine and cry and decide what I was doing. I put the book down. I picked the book up. I was writing the book. I wasn't writing the book. But the passion and the determination to actually do something that was needed to come out. It just needed to come out. And so I let it. And I did rush it. I rushed it out because I didn't want to lose it. You know, it was a moment of my life. It's not set knowledge, but it was experiences that were flowing through me. And I felt like the more of them I could capture on paper, the more of the experience I got to keep for myself and share with everybody else. So I did that. I felt like I succeeded. I did it. Yay! And I got it out about 3 weeks before Christmas. And I had my book release party here. Yay! I don't go about the publishing world like I don't even consider myself a writer. Okay, I didn't go hit a publisher, and I looked for self-publishing options for about 10 minutes. Okay, it was about 2 weeks, but online. Okay, will these people publish it the way I want it? Will these people print it the way I want it? I'm a photographer first, and so I had 6,000 photographs from that month, and I wasn't going to let them put 10 plates in the center of my otherwise black and white book and call it done. That wasn't going to be okay with me. No self-publisher would touch me. Nobody prints books with that many pictures. And if you go flip through the book over there, you'll see that it's a really bizarre setup. There isn't really a way to do it through a publishing company because they don't have that kind of setup with their printers. So that wasn't going to stop me. I decided, okay, a publisher won't touch me. Damn it, I'm doing it myself. And I searched far and wide for a printer that I could learn how to do the layout myself, which I did. I laid out 280 pages all by myself, including the photos and including the cover artwork. And I found a printer in the US, which was one of my stipulations, that would put the color pages where I wanted and as many color pages as I wanted and be able to print the book size that I wanted. The only thing they couldn't do was a hardcover. They did paperback for me. And they could do it in a price that I was okay with. Way more expensive than a traditional publisher, but I got what I wanted. And everyone who decided to jump on board on my mission, on my writing of the book, was who kind of made me decide that I needed to print as many as I did, because I was okay with making the thing just for me. That was my whole original purpose. But enough people heard about it and decided that it was an interesting thing. They really pushed me along into making sure other people could get a hold of it too. So that's the underlying, the out of left field girl who wrote the book, who's not really an author, could do it. You guys could probably find a topic that drives you enough to do exactly the same thing. Thanks.
Love that story. Thank you, Erica. Okay, and those are available here at SoulFood. Song of Chumalumpa. Did I say that right?
Can I just say,
Yes.
I'll just explain the title.
Yeah, that would be good.
I'm really bad at explaining things like that. I'm much better in the book, really. Chamalungma is the Sherpa word for Mount Everest. So it's the song of Mount Everest, and they believe that there's a spirit at the top of the mountain. So, and since I traveled with musicians, it was the song up the highway.
Erica, is that the book on? Can you show us the cover?
No. No.
That's Gemma. Sorry.
It's the orange and blue one on Everest.
Maybe if we have a volunteer to collect some of the authors' books who are here tonight and latest who couldn't be here, for when we get back together later and do our author panel, we could all have a little show and tell, which would be kind of fun. Okay. Our next author is somebody whose presence is seen here at Soul Food a lot. I know Trish is very active in our community in lots of amazing ways. And her book is titled The Turtle's Circle of Life. So let's give a warm welcome to Trish Knox. Thank you for joining us. Are you comfortable standing, or did you want to sit down?
No, I'm good standing. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honoring your sacred feminine and your sacred masculine. So, how many of you had parents that acknowledged their emotions as you were growing up and honored and validated your own emotions? How many were lucky enough? Excellent. All right. Well, I grew up without any emotion. And so I was a lost child for a long, long time, and I crashed at an early age, and I hit darkness, just like my story, Turtle's Circle of Life. Turtle's in space and doesn't know where she is or where she's going or who she is, and Father Son tells her to go to Earth and carries her. And so that story unfolds in this book called Circle of Life, and Turtle's Circle of Life is my own journey. And that's just one part of the story. So who am I? Besides a lost child who found herself after many, many years, and that path led to a mystical side that I didn't know was there growing up. Other than playing in the woods, maybe I knew it with the tree that spoke to me, or the ferns that grabbed my attention, the whispers in the wind. You get the calling very early on, but then insecurities and fears take over, and you forget that part of yourself, and nobody's there to validate it for you. We're not like the native tribes that have elders that guide us. So Trish Knox, I have a nonprofit organization called Community Threads. It's about stories and events and people in the community that are doing positive things. It's about broadcasting good news. And boy, I would really like the media to be more responsible. Whatever chance I get, I put this out there. Let's honor good news. For every negative, why not a positive story? Just balance what you're feeding us, please. So that's Community Threads. I also founded Transition Woodinville. I'm very concerned about the planet. I love my planet Earth, my mother. And so I want her to heal through sustainability and transition movement, which is an international organization. And I also am manager of the Heritage Garden in Woodinville. I love to garden. I didn't know this years ago. If I would have known this, the things you would have done differently if you only knew who you are now. But hey, you trust the process, and you're just in the process. So I'm a gardener now. And again, it goes back to the fairy world, the nature spirits. I had an experience with Buttercup. I got to tell you, I guess Buttercup wants me to tell you this story because Buttercup's coming in right now. I was weeding Buttercup out of my strawberry patch because it's taking over all my strawberries. So I'm pulling out Buttercup, and I hear this, stop! And I keep weeding, and I hear this, stop! It was so loud, and I'm thinking, wow, that was definitely the Deva Buttercup. And I felt so bad because I didn't stop and honor it like you think you would as a spiritual being, But someone told me that they need boundaries as well as we need boundaries. So that was a story that's part of the mystical work that I do through my Circle of Life activity book. So this started when my mom passed away. I wanted to tell her eulogy, and I had this image of a circle, and in the east is sunrise and morning and birth. And so I just went around the circle telling her life. She was deaf. She had whooping cough as a baby, so was deaf, had a difficult childhood. So, how do you tell somebody's story? How can I tighten this up, please? Thank you.
Do my best.
So the best way to organize anything is with a circle. You just section it out and go around and tell the story. And so my book is Circle of Life, and I self-published and used my nonprofit, UBI, did it all through my own nonprofit. I found an art designer to help embellish my art. It's an enchanting story. And it's to engage your right brain, your nonlinear brain, your feminine side, to color, to be imaginative like a child. So that is part of the story, and then it teaches you how to create your own circle of life with some diagrams and how-tos, and a couple of poems, one by Black Elk that honors the circles. Yeah, I know. Strengthen my heart chakra, or
Like really strong. Wasn't that?
Yeah. Right, that's righty tighty, lefty loosey.
that's good. Now,
Okay.
maybe it'll stay there. Thank you, Sarah. So that's a little bit about me and my emotional content. It definitely includes nature. So the activity is something that can be done with elders. I go to elder tribes, native tribes, youth. I was at a powwow recently at Tulalip, and the kids, foster kids, did their circles, and one of the foster moms said, golly, they just talked about where they've lived. Their whole map, east, south, west, north, childhood, teenage, adulthood, or elder, or your current age for the kids or anyone who's not an elder. Gee, it's just all the places they lived. Well, that's what was up for them. That's huge for them. So the mom and I decided next time they do it, they would go to another layer. And then the next time you could go to another layer. So you don't just do mapping once. You can do it many times. Last night I was at the Cascadia Community College, the cultural or creative arts department group, and they did beautiful art. Just really exquisite, and there were 4 of them, and we could really talk about what was going on in their psyches and their emotion, and we went really deep. So it's very versatile, and I would suggest to you, if you want to, instead of having a Tupperware party, you can have a mapping party. Invite your friends, we can sit down together and really get to know each other. Go deep as you like. It can be a healing journey. It could just be a storytelling journey I wanted to share with you. This is an elder from the Lummi tribe, and a lot of the men just do this. A lot of women too. What I did, where I went, on the surface, one earlier was talking about that. Just the surface activities of life, not going deep into the emotional content of who we are. And this is a map by a woman who's a relative of Chief Joseph. She's with the Yakima tribe. And she didn't go much into emotion either. It's painful for a lot of people. There's some Native women that can't even begin this journey. But here's a woman that did something fun. A 12-year-old, look at the great art. A car accident, age 3. And here I wanted to share with you, I have a friend who's an artist. And in her childhood, if I can find it here, she had a swing set, AA. Here, she's in AA. She thought, Trish, do you think I was predestined? I mean, that's the kind of unconscious art you want to come up. You want to just let it flow. You don't want to go into the mental mind and figure it all out. You want it to just come from the unconscious and subconscious and let it be creative and flow through you. And that's about listening to the sacred feminine. And another issue I have is that I think if we can find our sacred feminines, listen to that emotional content, we could heal the world. If men would find their sacred feminine, the males, a lot of healing can happen. So, the East, your childhood, just think about it for a minute. What comes up for you immediately? Don't fight it. Don't try to figure it out. Let something come up about your childhood. For me, it's trees in the forest. Teenage, times when our hormones are raging. Fire, noon, hot sun. Sex. For me, teenage years, we all share that in common. And then adulthood, what happens? Children. All those sacred things in our lives that make us who we are now. And so that's the gift for me when someone's done a map. I could get to say to that child or that elder, this is you, your unique story. No one else has a story just like you. So it's a gift to have this opportunity to share this with you. And if you want to do a mapping party, let me know. So thank you.
Thank you, Trish. So isn't this cool? What's starting to unfold is the variety of different processes, the ways that it's not necessarily linear, the way we write, that it can be very much right brain, very much creative. And here we are, a group of women. Thank you for sharing the feminine perspective there. And I don't know about you, but that kind of was a completely opening way for me to start thinking about writing, just a little bit different and more interactive. So, okay, we have one more author, and then we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to invite our publishing folks to come up and talk. So the next one is, let me make sure I have it right. So it's Dina Marie, and she wrote a fabulous book. It's available here at SoulFood, yes, called Our Energy Matters. Let's give a warm welcome to Dina Marie.
Thank you. I kept thinking I like to hold the microphone. It kept falling. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get to hold it. I'm going to hold it in a minute. But what I'm going to do is my talk backwards, because I do everything backwards. That's why I wrote this book. So I wrote a book on the chakras, and I'm going to have you participate. So the chakras, I teach them backwards. Most people teach them this way. I teach them this way. So for a second, I want you to ponder an idea for a book. So everyone in their mind, get that little light bulb thinking, if I could write a book on dogs. Obviously, I love chakras, so that's what I wrote my book on. So if you have an idea, that's your crown chakra. Now close your eyes. Some people like to close their eyes. Sometimes they don't. You can stare at me and visualize your book. If you had a cover, because that's part of the process, what would you have on your cover? And you can just even look at the name of the book, which will come to you later. It could be, let's see. I love my child every minute, but they drive me crazy. Okay, that could be the title. After that, I want you to, does everyone have an idea of a book? Okay, I want you to tell the stranger next to you. Just talk to a stranger. It'll be fun. What's your next book going to be? How you take Dina on your trips with you? That'll be fun. Okay, so as we move through, you actually told somebody your idea. A lot of people will have blocks and they won't actually be able to tell. I've had clients actually say, I'm afraid. I'm afraid to tell someone my idea. So as we have an idea, we visualize it, and then we talk about it. Or write it down on a piece of paper and make it an intention. So as you talk about your book or you visualize it, how does it feel? How does it feel? I mean, someone mentioned it's kind of weird to think it took me about 2 years to go, I'm an author. I didn't even put that on anything. I'm an author. Wow. Ooh, that made my heart feel really good. Before, I was kind of here as an idea, but it didn't really hit home that I'm worthy of being an author. Now I can feel it in my heart. It makes me feel good being an author. So as you work through your chakras, you get to a point where you really want it so bad you can taste it, and that's when you're going to act on it. So if you can think of one thing you could do today to start the party, which you all did, because if you even talked about it, or you saw it in your mind's eye, or it's an idea, you are on the dance floor right now. So watch out. It's getting scary. If you put your intentions out, it comes pretty quick nowadays. So get your intentions, focus on what you want, and start to feel it. Make it real. And then you act on it. So if you're going to act on it, you could go home. The best thing to do is just start writing. Get on your computer. We are so spoiled. We have spell check. We can just write when we feel like it. We can put it away. This book took me 3 or 4 years. And I wrote a book before it with my other books, but I'll tell you that in a minute. So it was an idea, and I got stopped when it came to the whole, asking for help. So then I needed money. I needed a publisher. I needed an editor. And when I work through the chakras, when you get to the sacral, that's when you work with other people. You go back to the top and you pray. So I prayed for people to come into my life and help me. That was my chakra block. I have low back issues too. So that's where my sacral, asking for help. And then when you actually get the book, then you got to go back to the top. Because when you physically manifest something, how are you going to sell it? I keep going back to the top, asking spirit, and now I do workshops with it. I package it with rocks, but you have to be very creative. So when you get a book, it's like a baby. You got to nurture it, and you got to keep going. And when maybe the baby's grown, I'll write another book. But for me, it started with a game I played with my kids 20 years ago. So I became a hypnotherapist, and I put this game in my room, my office, and people started getting more out of this game. And then I would add the hypnotherapy, and then I added the Reiki and that kind of stuff. So they wanted me to teach them. So that's where my book came from. And this is not me. This is spirit working through me. And so now I get to work with teenagers and their families, and just teaching people their chakras and energy work is changing, my life and the world. So that's my mission, and that's why I do it. And that's why spirit keeps coming through to me. And that's why I show up wherever God tells me to. So I started writing this, and then I got stuck at that orange chakra where you ask for help. So I put it away, and my grandma had an angel come to her when she was young, and her baby died. So I got this, I had to write this for her. So this is a book about an angel that came to my grandma, and it's free, so anyone can take one when they leave. But this is my calling card, and most people get it, read it, and then they'll hand it off to someone else, and it will be perfect. It'll be exactly at the time when someone needs it. So this was really good for me because it's smaller. I didn't have a person to do the graphics, and I prayed. And it was this man in Snohomish. His name's Larry Countryman. He's a Mormon. Bless his heart. He's an artist, and he's great. But he's like, Dina, I don't even believe in this stuff. But he did it for me anyways. And he is one of the nicest men ever. But it came through, and it came through spirit, because I feel he came into my life, but I thought someone else would do it, or someone else, and they kept letting me down, because you have expectations, right? Let spirit drive, and I can guarantee if you focus on this, it will happen. So I went through this, and I went through Snohomish Publishing. Her name's Shannon, and she's an angel, because she sat me down. We did this first, and she made it very inexpensive. So by the time I got to my book, which is in color, and if you do any color, it's going to cost you a lot more. So she helped me kind of make sure that the pages are on the right. It's not in order I would like it to be, but to save money. She saved me like $5,000. So I have 1,500 of these. I own them. And, they've already been, I had 3,000. And I actually have my book. So I own it, and it's much better to publish because you can make it your own. I've sent a lot of people there, too, and she helps them through. But sometimes people publish through someone else, and they take part of your idea away to sell a book, and then it's not really yours anymore. So I really encourage self-publishing. Make it your own, and then work it. Just keep doing what you need to do. But what happened is I had a client ask me to do a cheat sheet, because usually you do the reading on a table, and then this turned out to be the coolest part of the book, because now I can just take this anywhere. It's like a game. People laminate it, and it teaches anybody, anybody anywhere. I do business parties with businessmen, and they're crying. No, I was kidding. They're crying because their heart chakras are closed, but just kidding. But they just do a quick little rock reading, and I sell the rocks with it, which is a lot of work. If you ever seen my 200 pounds of rocks, I've been here before. So anyways, I keep those rocks with me so I can sell the book. But that was just one more way for me to keep this book moving and spinning along. But what you want to do is write down your intentions. So if you want to write a book, say, I want to write a book. And then you're going to say what it is that you want, and then you're going to have to put your heart into it, and then you have to show up. So for me, the hard part was asking for help. A lot of people will be afraid to tell, their dreams out loud to other people. So just get with yourself and someone who's very nurturing. Tell them what you want to do, and then ask the universe to start sending you synchronicities or signs, and pretty soon, you'll have your book. Everyone can write a book now, everybody. I think I was in Bellingham at a bookstore, and they actually have the printers there now, where you can do it's crazy. And you do a black and white book. If nothing else, write your life story. Everyone should write a book, because in the end, what you've done is you've taken all of this energy and you've birthed a baby into this world. And, the book for me is now workshops, classes, and what I didn't know I would do, because it took me 3 years to write it, is that in that time I had all the success stories of my clients. So what did I get to put right there in the middle of all those chapters were my clients, who are now my best friends, and they are helping me help other people, and we keep making it bigger. So timing, what they say, if you don't know what to do, don't do anything. So if you're not passionate, someone brought up passion, if it doesn't feel good, put it aside. Maybe it's not time. You can pick up another book, which is what I did. So I don't know. That's all I have to say about writing a book. Just make sure you do it. It's exciting.
Awesome. Thank you, Dina. So we are doing great on time. We're running a little bit ahead of schedule. I hope you will all stay with us. I think it's healthy to get up and take little movement breaks, kind of, share what we learned. So let's take another couple-minute break, come back in about 5 minutes, and then we're going to have our publisher informative section. So see you in 5 minutes. All right, everyone, we're going to regroup. So come on back. We've got a very fun section next. This is our publishers informative section. So we are very fortunate to have in our community Patty and Lonnie Pacelli. The name of their publishing company is Leading on the Edge Publishing. So this is our chance. We heard a little bit about what it's like to write a book, and we got a lot of different perspectives from a lot of different authors. I hope that many of them inspired something in you to find your voice. And sometimes just the nuts and bolts of what happens next and how do you go about taking the idea, let's say you've got a manuscript, then what do you do with it? How do you bring it to reality? So that's why Patty and Lonnie are here to share a little bit about what happens, what do you need to know in the publishing world. So let's give a big warm Eastside Women in Business and SoulFood Books Redmond welcome to Patty and Lonnie Pacelli. Come on up.
Well, you already heard me talk, so we'll let him talk. I want to introduce my husband, Lonnie. We've been married 24 years. So I'll let you go ahead and start with, tell kind of your story, how you got started in doing self-publishing for yourself and other people.
Okay. Well, first off, I'm not a woman, so I hope it's okay that I'm here talking to you. I was supposed to just sit in the back and do color commentary, and now people are taking pictures of me. And okay. So back in 2003, I decided that I wanted to write a book. So I went through this whole soul-searching process of doing it. I ended up writing a book on project management. And after I wrote the book, a friend of mine who is an editor at Microsoft, where he used to work at some other publishing houses, took the manuscript and said, this looks pretty good. Why don't I float it out to a few people? He sent it to an editor at Prentice Hall. And Prentice Hall picked it up. So the first two books that I wrote were actually Prentice Hall books. And it was really good. It's first time I saw the book, when they came into the house, I'm like, whoa, this is really cool. And it was a really exciting thing. And that wore off pretty quickly. What I found is working with the big bricks and mortar publishers, it's nice to say you're a Prentice Hall author, but the reality is unless you're an A-level author, and I'm like, probably a Q-level author. So unless you're an A-level author, they're not going to do very much for you, except take a lot of the money from the book. So I got really discouraged with what it is how I had to work with a publisher. So I said, for the third book, I said, you know what? I think we're going to do this one on our own. So I actually self-published the third book and went through a lot of learnings in doing that. We published through a company called CreateSpace. CreateSpace is owned by Amazon. And I did a lot of the self-publishing houses and kind of looking at what it is that they wanted. And a lot of them were you have to buy at least 1,500 or 3,000 copies or 5,000 copies for it to even break even. And they were very expensive. And it was always comical to me where I would get somebody that would say, hey, we can get you a chapter in a book and it'll only cost you $20,000. No, if anybody ever tries to tell you that, just run, because it's a bunch of hogwash. So we went the CreateSpace route. And what CreateSpace is they're a print-on-demand publisher. So, and it's createspace.com. And if you want, I actually have a website that has all these resources on there. It's leadingonedge.com/publish. And if you want later, I can help you with the spelling on that if that's helpful to you. But I went through a company called CreateSpace and found that they were very, very easy to work with, number one, and number two, extremely cost effective. To get a book up on Amazon, which CreateSpace is an Amazon company, to get a book on Amazon, it cost, for the third book I wrote, a total of about $45. $45.
It looks just like any other book on
It's
Amazon.
the Why Don't They Follow Me book that's on the table, $45. And now it's actually even cheaper. It's if you you have to pay $25 if you want to have worldwide distribution of your book other than the United States, which you do. So it's $25 to get your book up on Amazon. And then the way the sales work is you pay a book cost. So like for the 6-word lessons books that I think Patty might have showed you, the cost of those is about $2.30, and they usually charge on a per page basis. So the cost to CreateSpace is $2.30, and then CreateSpace takes a 20% commission on the sale, and then Amazon takes a 20% commission on the sale. And then the rest is yours as the author. Now, for me as the author, for my first book that I published on project management, I would get between $1.50 and $1.80 per book. With these, I'm getting in the $4 to $5 range per book. So, and if you do them on ebooks, so I'll get to the ebooks in a second. So it's just much more cost effective to do it that way. And the beautiful thing is you don't have to worry about buying 10, 15, or 2,000 copies.
And you can revise it anytime.
Yep.
And it's quick. You send it into CreateSpace and you get it back in days.
Yeah.
Or, they approve it overnight. Send you a proof. You get it back. It's ready to go. So it's just really great.
So our 19-year-old that wrote the autism book, it was about a 2-week window between him finishing the content and Patty editing it, and us actually getting the final copy ready to go up onto Amazon. So it was super, super quick. Now, I've done a lot of these, right? So I'm not a rookie when it comes to doing these, but there's not a lot of magic to it. I mean, it's actually pretty simple. So the CreateSpace route is a great way to go, and you don't have to worry about buying bunches of copies, and they're actually super responsive with shipping. I mean, Tama, you had 1,000 books that you ordered at one time, right? And they fulfilled the order cleanly and.
To another wholesaler.
Yeah. So I mean, that all worked out great. Now, one thing you definitely want to do is you don't want to just go the hard copy route. You want to go the e-reader route as well. So you want to go the Kindle route, which Amazon, again, has a facility which they call the DTP platform that you actually, and again, I'll tell you the website that has all this stuff on there so you don't have to worry about writing it down. And what you do is you actually upload your book into this DTP platform, and then they convert it into a Kindle-friendly book. That is free, and then they just take a commission off of every unit that's sold. So it's a very, very low-risk kind of venture. Same thing with the iPad. There's a website called smashwords.com, and what you do is you submit your book to Smashwords, and then what they do is they go through a pretty stringent validation process because they want to make sure that the content is going to look good on an iPad and on a Sony e-reader and on a Barnes & Noble Nook. So they go through a pretty stringent process, and then once they approve it, then they push it out to all of those platforms for you. And again, to get it up there and to get it for sale is free, and then for each unit there's a commission that gets paid to them. So the beautiful thing about it is you can write something, and even if you only sell 100 copies, the dollars that you're out just isn't that big a deal. It's your time, right? I mean, you've spent time doing it, but it's not like there's this huge capital outlay that you had to do. And as Patty said, revising the book is super easy. We just did a revision on yours, and she spent a few days doing the revisions, and then once she was done, she gave it to me. I printed it out as a PDF, and then submitted the PDF to CreateSpace, and then they approved it overnight. And because we knew there was only very minor changes, we didn't actually request a hard copy be printed. So we just approved it the next day, and then it was available for sale the very next day. So try to do that with a publisher. I mean, publishers, it's like wailing and gnashing of teeth,
Well,
right?
If you find a mistake in your book,
Yeah.
you can just change it, and then the next time you get a hard copy, or the next time someone buys it, it'll be corrected. You don't have 3,000 copies that have that one little mistake in them or whatever.
Now, what we did with the 6-word lesson series, and I think Patty showed you a couple of those, right? I wasn't here for that.
Yeah, I talked about
We've got eight of those now. And the vision that I've got for that series is that it's like a for dummies kind of a series that you can have a 6-word lessons book on just about any topic you can think of, because it's very ubiquitous that way. So with that, the way we work that is you actually fill out 2 Word documents. The first Word document is oh, thank you, right on cue. Your name's not Vanna, is it?
No, but I
Okay.
play a good band.
You play a good Vanna? So there you go. How about an ooh and a ah for that?
How about Patty needs
Thank
something
you.
to hold.
There you
go.
go. Isn't she great?
And she looks her best.
She does. And I came in jeans and yeah. So she dresses me usually. She didn't dress me this morning. So with 6-word lessons book, there's 2 Word documents that you create. One is a 1-pager which has a synopsis and the chapter headings. And then I go through that with you and then kind of say, okay, this chapter heading doesn't look quite right, and just kind of guide you along the way on the 1-pager. And then once we agree on the 1-pager, then the second Word document is literally a 4-column table. And the columns are, it's the lesson number, because there's 100 lessons. It's the chapter, the 6-word chapter. It's the 6-word lesson, and then a 40-word description. And what you do is you fill out the Word doc, you fill out that table, and then you can go, it's always good to have an editor. As a matter of fact, for anything that I publish or Patty publishes, we always have somebody edit it. That's non-negotiable. And I don't even edit my own stuff because you need to have somebody else do it. Only Patty's good to write and edit her own stuff, not me. But you fill out that Word document, and then I take that and I import that into the book format, which is what you see here. So in doing these, you don't even have to worry about, gosh, how's it going to look like on a page, because that's the stuff that we do for you, as opposed to you having to worry about page layout and stuff like that. Because as an author, you need to be worrying about the content. You need to make sure that the content is compelling. You need to make sure that it's something that the reader is going to look at and say, wow, that's a great idea. Or I never thought of it that way before. That's the kinds of things as an author you need to be worried about. And you need to make sure that you're putting your energy and your investment in writing something that's very compelling and something that people are really, really going to want to read. And then we take that format, import it into the book format, and then submit it to CreateSpace and go through that whole process that I would talk to you about. Now, I'll talk to you a minute about the ebook side of things. So it's not as simple as saying, okay, I just formatted this book on for hard copy. Now I'm just going to take that exact same format and put it up on the Kindle and on the iPad platform. That just doesn't work. First off, the navigation is very different, right? Because you use hyperlinks, and hard copy books don't have hyperlinks in them. But Kindles and iPads and whatnot use hyperlinks. So you want to be able to click on the chapter heading and then go right to that chapter from the table of contents. So you have to do hyperlinks in it. The second thing is e-readers aren't very friendly when it comes to using a lot of different font sizes. Typically, the largest font size you want to go is like a 14-point font size for an e-reader. And so for the books that we have, usually they're 14, 12, and 10-point fonts. The other thing is you try not to do a lot of flowery kind of fonts. I mean, you try to do basic fonts like a Times New Roman or something like that, because the e-readers don't like a lot of the girly fonts. I guess I could say that. So they don't like those fonts. And if you try to do something like that with Smashwords, they'll boot you. They'll just say, this isn't going to work for you. So there's a little bit of formatting work that you do to go from a hard copy to an e-reader, but it's not that big a deal. And like I said, once you've done it a couple times, you kind of get the hang of it. But with Trevor's book, we had the e-reader and the hard copy format done really within a couple of days. I mean, it was just, it wasn't that hard at all to do. Okay. So I think I'm done speaking. What questions do you have?
So how do we get a hold of you, either Patty, to find out more about wanting to private publishing?
Well, I got some business cards. cards up on the table, and we have a 6-word lessons business card. So it's on there. We've got, I think you can reach me through eWeb, and we're done.
Well, okay, how about a big round of applause? Who's got any questions? Before they leave, because we're going to do our author questions first, but any more publishing questions before these guys step down?
Mentioned what, I'm sorry? Create Space. So the total cost in Create Space is about $25. That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Are y'all surprised? Is this cool? I mean, talk about the resources, that we have in our community. So, I mean, this is cool. You guys can contact them, and it sounds like you put together a site with all kinds of links and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, you do. Now, yeah, you can get your own. You can get your own ISBN through CreateSpace. If you get a CreateSpace ISBN number, then they specify CreateSpace as the publisher. So, because I'm a publisher, we have our own ISBN prefix, so we use our own ISBN numbers.
I have a comment. I used Lonnie and Patty to do my book, and the visibility is amazing because they get behind it and make sure that you have all the Amazon and all the search engines are picking up your book. And then I had a wholesaler pick up my book, and so they turned right around and ordered, I think it was 1,000 copies to resell, and all that ordering takes place on Amazon, or and we did a wholesale deal for them, so it went direct with CreateSpace. But at the end of the year, I get a tax statement that just drops right into my TurboTax. So everything is done for you if you go for that route, and it's incredibly low cost.
Yeah, the other thing is once you publish a book, you'll do something called an owner order on CreateSpace. So you don't order them through Amazon and then pay the commissions. If you do an owner order on CreateSpace, then all you're doing is you're paying the book cost. So for these, it's $2.31. Oops, not Tama's. For these, it's about $2.31. And the shipping, if you order 100, I think it's like 19 cents per unit for shipping. So even with that, it's still pretty inexpensive.
I was just going to ask, could you talk a little bit more about how you partner with people like Tama, for the whole process?
Sure.
Do people have, in other words, do people have to submit a proposal, or will you publish anybody's book?
So, well, here's the thing. So, if you're going to write a book on something, and if you're going to profess to be an authority on it, because our publishing company is going on the book, I'd like to make sure that you just didn't pick up a book and read about it, and now you're saying you're an authority. So, I mean, if you're positioning yourself as an authority, then you need to have some good experience. That's probably the most important thing. The second thing is I don't publish anything that's I'm not going to publish things on pornography or any of that yucky stuff. I mean, that's and I'm not going to publish stuff with foul language in it. I mean, that's just a direction that we just don't go. And we can do that. We can choose not to do that. Once beyond that, then like with Tama had this idea for a book. We talked through the concept, and she actually had a lot of the content already written. So I took her content and then I formatted it into this book format, and then we actually hired a graphic artist to do her cover. And I think the graphic artist was like $250, something like that. Yeah, it wasn't significant. Now for these, you don't need a graphic artist because we already have the cover designed. And even CreateSpace has some template covers that you can use, but I probably wouldn't do that because then you'll look like 3,500 other books that have the same cover except different words on the page. So, but as far as and I'm not sure if I'm answering your question exactly here, but I mean, as far as engaging with us, one thing, because I am an author first and foremost, and because Patty's an author, is we treat authors like we want to be treated. So your out-of-pocket is the $25 to Amazon, and about the only thing that I ask you for is I ask you to put up $100, which is in essence an advance on our fees that we get, just to make sure that you got skin in the game. because I've had a number of people say, oh yeah, I'm ready, and then I'll invest time with them, and then they don't do anything. So the $100 is just to say, are you serious? If you're serious about it, great. It's just an advance on the royalties that we're going to get off of your book sales, because we get $1.25 for every unit that you sell or every unit that you order. I mean, that's where we make our money. But the nice thing is that if you write a book and it doesn't sell that much, you're not out a huge pocket of money.
Are you guys going to be around a little bit? So if people have more questions and want information, you'll be kind of over there at the table? Awesome. All right, thank you. Big round of applause for Patty and Lonnie. We've all got the tools. So I want to see a show of hands on how many of you think within the next year you might actually put a book yeah, look at that. And were you inspired tonight? It's like, this is more doable than we thought, isn't it? All right, so this is the fun part. We get to bring all of our authors up here on stage. So let's welcome them with a big round of applause as we do our final Q&A. Come on up. And I'm going to take a risk here and invite Julia, if you'd like to come up, since she's like almost done with her book and is one of our eWib authors. So we'd love to have you be part of it if anybody has questions for you. And while they're gathering, I would also like to recognize Christy Michelle. Would you mind standing for us, dear? Christy is our founding director of eWib, and this is pretty much your brainchild, isn't it? Yeah, you coordinated all of this. Who else was involved in the coordination process? Julia. Okay, so Julia and Christy. So big round of applause for you guys. This is an awesome event. So glad to have this as part of our community. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to kind of just let this be self-moderated, but then again, there's, not everybody can hear when someone asks a question. So if you have a question, speak up loudly, and then we'll kind of see if you have somebody in particular to ask them, and otherwise we're going to let this be organic and wild and live dangerously and see where the microphone wants to go. Okay, questions? Yes. Okay, so the question is, most of these books are about personal expertise. Anybody doing anything with fiction? Julia.
I can answer that question because my daughter writes fiction. So she's finished her first book, and she actually went the agent round, and she submitted it to the agent. But she actually based it on growing up with her sister Christy, but it's a fiction book. So, some people ask her, well, did that really happen in the book, or did that really happen? She says, well, it sort of happened that way, but it sort of didn't happen that way. So, but that's, I couldn't write fiction.
Trish, yours is a little bit fiction,
kind of? Well, the story of enchantment, you just use your imagination. For me, that's how I have to do it, because I'm not linear at all. I need to just go to the creative side. I would just let it unfold, not work so hard at it, listen more. That sacred feminine place is one of listening and receptivity. And I think if we wrote books from that space, it could be very creative and dynamic.
Awesome. Okay. Did that answer your question? Sarah has an answer for that. You want to?
When I was in college, I wrote 2 children's books, and so and they were through the University of Idaho Press. In fact, it might still be in their catalogs, but I'm not sure. And mine was very similar to a lot of my writer friends who had written books about expertise or their personal experiences. Mine was more because they were kids' books. They were. It actually felt a little bit more of a gauntlet that some of my friends had been, because the languaging has to be really specific, and it has to be really, especially whatever genre you're going into. I'm not sure if you're writing kids' books, but was my experience. But it was very similar to any of my friends who were writing nonfiction or something that they were expertise. Although I do have to say, the catalog for fiction was much bigger. So it was really, the editors that I worked with were really pushed me really, really hard to make sure that how I was presenting things, since it wasn't fact or it wasn't something that I had personally experienced. They pushed me really hard not to get stuck in any cliches, like cultural cliches that are really easy to get caught into. And they pushed really hard. And maybe it was my own personal experience in it, but I kind of felt picked on every once in a while. I was like, come on, that's the best word for it. But they were really, they pushed me really, really hard. So, but it was very similar.
I'm doing two things at once, by the way. I've been using my phone, taking pictures of all the authors, and while they've been speaking, I've been posting on Facebook. So we already have the word out there that, each one, so with your name, and it's not professional quality, but hey, that's part of what this is about, right? Community. So I want to get a shot of everybody up here before the night is over. Okay, other questions?
That's okay. I have a question on titles. Is there any kind of rule of thumb for number of words in a title or any parameters? I don't know that much about it, so I've been struggling with that.
Good question. Who wants to start with that one?
I think that's a hard one too. I think what I do is go to the bookstore and just look at books. And I did the same thing with cover when we were kind of looking for cover ideas. So just go, I don't know, just look at other titles and see what you like about them, and just keep like I was talking about the handwriting. If you handwrite it out and see how it sounds. Yeah, that's really important. I don't think there's any rules for it, but it is a really important part of the book, though, definitely.
So obviously this is going to be a storytelling again. I didn't pick something that was pronounceable. And that might have been to my detriment, but my story about picking the title is I got about a third of the way through the writing and this title jumped into my head, and I actually blog posted about this, so you can go out to my blog and read it if you want. But it curled up in my lap like a puppy, and I love this title, and it spoke to me, and it was all about the book. And then I started bouncing it off of the people that were in the book, and everybody hated it. They hated it with a passion. Like, no, that's so wrong for so many reasons. And so I had to uninvest in that puppy that had curled up in my lap, and so just went without a title for a while, which killed me because I tend to work from having a purpose from the beginning. But I wrestled through that and then spent a lot of time tripping through the languages that I was immersed in to come up with the final title that I did, and bounced that off of people, and they liked it a lot better.
If we can back up just a little bit, I would ask you to consider using the circle as a structure for writing fiction.
I have a good one on titles. First of all, you can Google it over and over again just to make sure that it doesn't come up, because you don't want to use someone else's anything. But I had this sitting on my coffee table, and I had a client come through, and she goes, "It says ours energy matters." And I was like, it was ready to go to print, and we proofed it. Everyone looked at it, and it said our energy matters. So in the end, it was one of those things, the editor, none of us saw it. It was just one of those things that there's a higher power, because it'll be our energy matters. Try to Google that. It's not going to come up. But anyways, but for me, I was just not, every time I exercise, that's when the light turns on. So it's like somewhere on the treadmill or somewhere on that bike, that's where I got the back of this book. That's where I got the name, because it was just going to be the Art of Crystal Reading. And it's like, if I would have kept that as the main title, it would have turned off quite a few people, which I didn't know. Crystals, either you love them or you don't, right? So our energy matters. Plus, it makes more sense. Energy, chakras matter. So anyways, I think, again, spirit kind of comes through, and God help me. Look at energy. So
I had a ton of names for my book, and they all, just didn't work for various reasons. So I went nameless for a while, which is really kind of soulless. You're writing for something, but you don't know the name. And as I was writing a story, I remembered how much I had loved a book in college called Do What You Love and the Money Will Follow. And that just kept coming back to me. And so that's how the title ended up in there, was from what I had been writing while I was titleless.
That's an interesting, whoops, we're stuck. There we go. Interesting question. Okay, awesome. Yes.
So my question is, I've always wanted to write a book ever since I was a little kid, but I don't want my name on it.
Okay, so the question is, you've always wanted to write a book, but
How do you, as an author, go about publishing a book that you like? Do I just put unknown by unknown?
so writing under another name, being anonymous, that kind of thing.
I think first you should explore why you want to write the book, and then separate from that, explore why you don't want your name on it.
It's why I want to write the book, but I don't want it.
Okay, because
Because I'm irrelevant to the purpose.
you're irrelevant to the purpose of the book. So why not pick a pen name? Just pick a name that means something to you, that you will know is you, but no one else will. Or ask someone if they want to be your double check, and ask them if they want their name on it.
Passing that one. Okay. All right, good. How we doing? Just having fun yet? Getting our questions answered? Okay, any other questions? Yes, Samaya.
This is for any of you. As you went into this journey of writing your books, what helped you when you got kind of stuck or lost or unmotivated? What helped you come back to your purpose and see this through?
What helped you when you were stuck in the process? Who wants to start with that one?
If I got stuck or became unmotivated, I just stopped. And I stopped and let myself have a break. Because my topic is very emotional for me. It's my emotional journey over 31 years. So if I got overwhelmed and I thought, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, it's just too hard, I would just stop and take a break. And then if I needed encouragement to go forward along the way, and I've done this a couple times on Facebook, I would post a chapter on my Facebook, and then I would get all these people commenting, oh my gosh, this is so great, when are you going to be done? And it's like, oh, they really do want to read this book. So then it was kind of, they inspired me to keep going. And because I think I don't know, a book like mine, it's just taken a long time to write, and you are going to get stuck in a while. So that's the two things I do.
I'll always talk. I totally second her motion. The thing that drives you to write is also probably very related to the thing that drives you to stop writing. And so, in as much as it doesn't help you to write when you're not in the mood to write, don't force it, and go explore something else so that you come back fresh and with a new point of view. It's especially true in storytelling, especially in emotional storytelling, which I cried through several of my chapters, just tears running down my face, getting the right words out it's an exhausting experience, and you have to take breaks from it.
And I would suggest to feel the feelings, don't suppress them, repress them, let them move. If you feel like a child and cry and hit your pillow, whatever you need to do, the body needs to let that move so you can get past it. And stillness always, as the women here are saying, let it go. And if it's right, it'll come back. And you just trust that process. It is a circle of life again. It's a rhythm.
I don't have that much of a comment. Mine was kind of a different type of book. It wasn't emotional at all. It was, you want to just find that balance, not being lazy or taking too much of a break. You still want to make sure you get disciplined to get back to it. And so I like to set time limits on things. And it's like, if I don't feel like doing it, I'll tell myself, well, I'll do it for an hour or for a half hour. And usually by the time I get going, then I'm more into it and I at least get something done. So I think just keep going back to it.
And having fun. So if you're really stressed out about it, just go and do something you really enjoy. And then all of a sudden you're dancing on the dance floor. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to go home and write it down. But like just stepping out of that energy and having fun. But I have one little tip. Be very careful who you give your baby to and your ideas, because it was hard for me to have people proofread it, but I also had a couple people that really tore it apart. And it had to do with them, not me. But, sometimes when you write a book, people treat you differently. Like you think you're all that kind of, it was really odd. But be very careful who you give your ideas to. Hopefully, it's someone supportive and nurtures your ideas. So, it is like a child. You want to make sure that they take care of it. So.
Sometimes avoiding getting stuck is just having a time that you set aside where maybe you're not actually writing, but maybe you're reading or researching or drawing that pictures that to kind of get your creative juices going.
Well, we are coming up on the tail end of our time together here. Any last questions? Yes.
About how many copies did you guys have printed your first printing out?
I usually do 40 or 50 or something like that. And then because I can always order more, it only takes a week or so to get more copies. So it just depends on what you're doing, what you're going to do with your book. So.
Again, the advantage of doing Create Space is you don't have to get any copies at all. You can, get one for your household and then let people order it online, and then you don't have to deal with the taxes or anything. It's really a nice way to go.
3,000.
I've got like 50 cases in my garage. Yeah. That's nice to know that you don't have to do it that way. Okay. So while we were sitting here, I met Leslie at our table, and she was talking about her desire to write about some of her travels, and photography is a hobby for her. So secretly, I was whispering to her and asking if we could get a group picture of all of our authors holding your books before we wrap it up tonight, and that might be a fun closing. So would you guys be willing to pose? And I know, Julia, yours isn't ready. You want to? Okay, well, so why don't we get the 5 of you? We can stand up. And if you'd be so kind. And this is. I love it. So, as she's doing this, this is a visual representation of our community. And you all are part of it. And we all strengthen one another. And we learn from one another. And so, as we're taking in the pieces, a couple of ideas that came through. Yeah. And
Okay, everybody smile. 1, 2, 3.
and you're being thanked. Oh, okay. So you want them looking in a different direction.
Look at me.
Okay. So if everybody looks at Lonnie and thinks about your book going skyrocketing to the right place it needs to be. Yeah. What'd you say, Christy? Bestseller. I love it. So the ideas that came through tonight: passion, discipline, authenticity. The fact that there's no right or wrong way to do it, right? There's a matter of structure, like the way Patty did it, with a format. There's a way of completely non-structured, like the way Trish did hers. I heard a lot about letting the ideas kind of move through you, trusting your intuition, using all parts of your brain, connecting with your heart, and then utilizing your community, which is what we're all here for. So let's give all of these wonderful women a big round of applause. Thank you for sharing your wisdom tonight. And you guys will be here for a little while over there. If people want to get autographed copies of their book, right? Big round of applause for Clint and Sarah hosting us here tonight. It's such an honor to be part of this amazing community. We welcome you to become part of Eastside Women in Business if you haven't already. Again, we're ewib.biz. And as far as I know, SoulFood is going to be open till about 9 o'clock tonight, so support your local community. Thank you all for coming.